Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, actually. This is Jim Welsh. I'm with Payroll4Construction. I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. This is a sales webinar today, so we'll kind of just go through our payroll service, give you a high-level overview of kind of what we do and how we may potentially be able to help you. As I go through this, if you do have questions, unfortunately, you can't talk. You have to type them in. Not my preferred style, but at least this will allow you to get a kind of a high-level overview here today. We, of course, offer one-on-one live demos where we can connect and we can go through this in greater detail, where you can talk to me and you can ask me questions, as I go. So, just keep in mind, this will be pretty high level. I try to keep these to about 20, 25 minutes, then open it up for questions. So, I will do that, and then I'll present you with my information here so that if anybody has questions or wants to talk, learn more, they can reach out to me directly. So basically, today what we're going to cover is just really our service and why we're so unique, why we're so different, why we focus on nothing but the construction industry, and some things that we do to help contractors out more so than your traditional services. So 10,000-foot overview. We are a payroll service. So when you start thinking, what do you do if you don't know what a payroll service does? Pay your employees and taxes. It's the highest of high levels, right? But if somebody calls and says, hey, Jim, I just need somebody to pay my employees and taxes, usually we'll maybe recommend them to somebody else. That's not where we become different. Aside from processing in all 50 states, handling multi-state payroll, we actually didn't start as a payroll service, which for a lot can be very, concerning, confusing, but we started as a full job cost accounting ERP system. So most everybody in the industry knows us as foundation software. So I'm not here to sell you new accounting software. Reality is we have 3,000 plus clients that use us for payroll and not for a full accounting system, meaning we'll integrate this with QuickBooks or Sage or whatever you're using for the most part. Of course, there are some systems out there that we don't, but we're very upfront with that. If somebody shoots me an email and says, Jim, do you work with software A? If we don't, I just say we don't, because it's important to know this stuff. If this lines up, it really works well. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So with that being said, when I leave this PowerPoint here in the next few minutes, you're going to see foundation. So I have to make mention of it. It's why I prefer doing one-on-one demos, because this can create a little confusion and questions where I don't want people dropping off the webinar because they think they have to buy a new software package. You don't, but you will see parts of it. So our payroll service, you can access it online from any computer with internet. We'll kind of go through a little bit of the functionality feature sets today, and then we'll kind of show you some of the stuff that we do that separates us a bit. So again, multi-state or multi-locality payroll. One of the unique things with us is in construction, a lot of things are determined by job. Not just job costing, of course, that's huge, but hey, rates, taxes, all of that stuff could change based on the job. Those are the clients we really look for there. So whether you're a union contractor, prevailing wage contractor, it just starts to make payroll a bit messier, right? Again, multi-state as well. So one of the big things, one of the things most of our clients share is something in that realm, meaning, hey, Jim, one of the things we're struggling with QuickBooks or traditional company A or B or C is my guys and gals could earn different rates or have to pay different taxes based on where they're working. So if you take anything away from this today, the job here is key, and in our system, unlike most others, you can actually control a heck of a lot of things by job. Workers' comp, OSIP, CSIP. There's a lot of things. Some of these things just won't apply to you. But the things that do, we do a great job of. So all of these different rates and fringes and workers' comp, that's a huge one. Meaning in construction, some people just say, hey, Bob and Susan always fall under workers' comp class A. Other companies are like, hey, depending on the work they're doing, hey, doing asbestos removal, way higher workers' comp rate than, hey, they're just driving or doing general labor, where you want to be able to break that stuff out for your own benefit. So those are things that we can separate and track And again, if these are things that like, hey, none of these apply to me, we'll also look at you and say, hey, this may just not be a great fit for you because you just need basic payroll processing. So we're going to dig into the things here that really separate us and really hopefully help you determine if this lines up in regards to being a fit for you guys. So the reporting, one of the biggest things people come to us for. So again, I'm going to get into more of the functionality of how we can make the beginning part of payroll easy, but where everybody wants to go to, where their minds go to, and for a great reason, is the back end reporting. If you're using a traditional or not a construction specific software or not a construction specific payroll service, most people are coming to us because they're finding themselves spending hours after the employees and taxes are paid. So the main game and main name of a payroll service is, again, paying the employees and taxes. But it is things like certified payroll, which we will dig way deeper into, some of the monthly manning, EEO, minority compliance reporting, job labor, job costing. I mean, that's a huge thing. There are a lot of companies that say, hey, I'd love to outsource my payroll, but I can't because of, hey, the reporting, or again, at the very least, well, I can't sacrifice job costing, meaning even these jobs, to figure out profitability as a company, you can't just look at the company and say, hey, we're this profitable or we're not this profitable. It boils down to those jobs. Each one you got to kind of look at individually here. So being able to outsource payroll and deal with a company that understands the importance of the job costing, and not just the importance of it, and being able to look at you and say, hey, we have a ton of job cost reports in here. I'll show you guys a few in just a couple of minutes. But the reality is you got to deal with a company that understands that, well, the labor aspect, meaning what you pay your employees and what you have to pay in burden, is a huge part of what it costs you to complete jobs. But there's material, purchase orders, subcontracts, change orders. There are more things going on. That is why it is important for us to be able to take this data and push it back into your accounting system so that you don't fracture, that scope of profitability per job just to, accomplish outsourcing payroll. So there are things here that other companies just don't understand. So when we talk about, the title, not all payroll services being equal, it's, hey, I'll say on the back end of paying employees and taxes, all pretty similar. It is that front end of how does that system work? Is it built for us as a multi-state or union or prevailing wage contractor? And on the back end, do they understand the reports we're going to need? And this stuff changes. I mean, when I'm talking to people in California, the reporting requirements they have and what they need, while somewhat similar for certified payroll for what they're asking for, the reporting mechanisms are greatly different from state to state, even sometimes city to city. So we'll get into when I start showing some of this reporting, not just kind of what you're seeing, the general graphic, or generic, I should say, graphic of the WH347, right? The main one that started it all that everybody recognizes. Some of that stuff's faded. I have people doing payroll that have never seen that report because they started doing payroll, 5 years ago for a company where you're in California, you're not even touching paper. You're going to a website like the California DIR or LCP Trackers, the huge one that is used not just in California, but a ton of different states. So these are things that I always tell people, dig deeper. That's why we encourage one-on-one demos. As much as you want to make sure that this lines up, we do as well. A lot of work goes into changing payroll on both ends. And as your service, we do a ton of that legwork for you. So with that being said, we don't want to get to a point where, hey, this is crucial, this is critical, we can't move forward without this piece. And how we figure all that out is live one-on-one demos with basically anybody on your team that touches payroll. So again, today probably won't answer every question you have, but hopefully get you to a point of seeing if this is something that may line up. Not to be forgotten about, but not that it gets talked about through many of my webinars or my one-on-one demos, is the basic services. So I'll commonly do these and people will, hey, at the end ask, hey, are you still going to do like the checks, the direct deposits, and pay my city, state, my 940, 941s, my W-2s, my ACA stuff? And And it's a valid question. It does get lost because the reality, again, is if you call me and that is all you need, going with your local, traditional payroll service right down the road from you is not going to be detrimental to your business. It's going to work out just fine. They're going to get your employees and taxes paid. We all do. There's back-end software that automates this. So I always laugh and joke and say, hey, I can't sit here and promise you that I'll pay your employees faster, your taxes better. No, there's a back-end system that automates that. Nobody's sitting here saying, hey, let's make sure we pay Bob's Electric's taxes and employees today. It's an automated thing. So I'd like to make sure people know, if you do go with us, this is a part of what you're getting. We do this stuff. So whether you're using a service and wondering, is there a trade-off? No. Or if you're doing it in-house and looking at something like this, it is important to know that, yes, we are going to be taking over those duties if you do come over to us. Okay, a few other things here. So we integrate with QuickBooks and other accounting programs like I told you. Again, anybody who's like, well, I'm not on QuickBooks, I use this. Jim, do you work with that accounting system? Just whether you put it here in the questions or you email it to me separately, again, I'll provide my contact information and we'll get you all that information before you schedule a demo. Because again, we don't want to waste your time. We want to make sure this lines up. Only focus is construction. So many folks come to me and say, hey, Jim, well, I have one dedicated support rep account manager. And when I tell them no, that's again, panic ensues a bit because they're used to a payroll service that has taken an individual. Basically, they have, meaning you as the company have taught this person how your complex payroll works. And when that person goes on vacation, is out sick, quits, fired, promoted, major support issues go down for you. You have nobody there. So it's not realistic to support somebody like that. So with us, we have 60 plus support reps that are all directly handpicked, hired by us, trained by us. And the only thing they support is complex construction payroll. So you will see support elevate with us, but no, I won't mislead you there and tell you you're going to have one person there, because even if you didn't have to teach that person, the reality is look, support is a starting position at a company, right? So either you flame out, company lets you go, or you excel and they promote you, or you just don't like what you're doing and you voluntarily leave as a support rep. So it's just, there's going to be turnover. It's like construction. It's field construction. There is constant turnover, and that does pose problems. So the way we handle our support and just the way our entire business from a marketing, a programming, a developmental, and support standpoint is, all we do is what you guys do. So that's the beauty of it, is that as this industry changes, our eyes and focus isn't on the restaurant, the retail, construction. No, we are just construction and complex construction to further that. So time card import feature. So look, getting time into the system, we'll talk about a few different ways here in a minute. But I mean, I have clients that are like, Jim, I'm union. My guys and gals can't be forced to use an app. We get time cards via paper, text, whatever, and we hand key it in. Of course, we have a method for that. But again, trying to move with the times and technology and evolving, things like, hey, Jim, we use a mobile app already that can export to Excel, text, or CSV. Can you work with that? Yes. Jim, do you have your own mobile app that my guys and gals can use out in the field? Yes. So we have different things for that, all the way to HRIS, onboarding, electronic pay stubs for employees. Even furthermore, I need to update this because we now have a self-service portal as well where, some of my folks just want their employees to be able to access pay stubs, no more, no less. We have an option for that. Others want to take it a little further and say, hey, I want them to be able to access those pay stubs, but I also want them to be able to change their 401k, their bank account, their beneficiary, some of the basic information that, again, if there's no real good direct communication from field to office, you're dealing with paper or text or emails or calls, whatever it is, you can get away from that. So again, being fully focused on this industry, the things that can help construction companies, and also designing our products ourselves, meaning, Yeah, there are people out there that have products that can do some of the things I'm mentioning, but again, they weren't built initially for construction. So they're built for a little bit different of a mindset, right? So with us, all this stuff, we think about that. We're asking our clients, what do you want? What do you need? And as we start asking 50 or so clients, we see a common trend because we go after the same type of client, right? So this is where you'll see a lot of differences from us and other services. Now, how payroll's processed, which I'm going to kind of get into, of course, again, this is going to look like software. Mine is hard installed on my computer. You would be accessing this from any computer with internet via our website. So you're not going to be bogged down to one computer. Then you're reporting your hours one way or the other, whether you're entering it using a mobile app or using one of ours. Of course, hours are getting into the system. You're reviewing that, which we'll go over, and then you're submitting it. The rest is done. Paying employees, taxes, garnishments, your certified reports are ready to upload or print. Your union, your workers' comp, your job costing, all of that is done once those time cards are in and reviewed and submitted to us. So I'll pop this back up at the end so that anybody can grab my info. Again, we're easy to work with. If you say, Jim, don't bother me, I don't need a demo, but I would be curious as to what this would cost me, I can just send you a quote. If you do want a one-on-one demo or just have a question, we can do that. So I'll pop this up at the end as we're going through kind of the question and answer session, give everybody a chance to write this down. All right. So now where I am going is into what you would see. And again, you're seeing foundation software. I have to make mention of that. All we did was went into the software, hit everything, APAR, and give our clients access to the general ledger, job cost, and payroll modules. And again, they don't have to buy our software at all. Just logging in online to use this as their reporting tool. So in here, where I start is, again, the language that the clients we deal with use on a daily basis, and that is very important to them. There's no wonky workarounds. I'm not having to log in somewhere and put something in that doesn't make sense. So we have these sections dedicated for this stuff. So I tell everybody, we don't pretend to know the rates for every union or every prevailing wage class and job across the country. There's just too much of it going on, right? So whether you're union or non-union, that verbiage and language and what you start seeing in your drop-downs would be completely different. So, as I go through this, I tell everybody, hey, this isn't a database that just we put a sandbox together and threw a bunch of, toys in there for you. We're going to custom build this. So, somebody who's in a hurry and needs payroll up in a week or two, I tell them that's just not feasible with us, right? So we will be helping set this up, whether you have union or not. This stuff here, what I can do is I can actually come in here and I can say, hey, this here, as I change this, I can update the masses. So what these master tables, at least on the union side, are good for two things. Effective dates, rolling them over, even midweek without a stoppage in payroll, and being visible, showing that on the pay stubs, the certified, the union reports, the system would do all that. So I could roll over massive groups of people through these tables. And if you have somebody you pay above scale in the union, then you would just have that higher amount in their record. Whereas if you were non-union, you'd be able to say, hey, we deal with the following classes, the rates, and then there'd be a fringe table. Even if you're not union and you say, Jim, we pay the fringe to the employee in their paycheck, great. We're still not putting that all on one table. It screws up the overtime calculations. So no matter what, if you're doing union or prevailing wage, we have rates, we have fringes, keeping them separated for visibility and making sure things are tracking accordingly. Of course, if you're union, they're dictating this stuff. So we're building these tables out. So I tell people there's no magic here. This is just what this was initially designed and intended for in the first place, which is huge, rather than workarounds to try to fit it to your company. So this stuff, if it's a deduction or fringe, what it's called, how it calculates, how it's taxed, all custom to you and your unions. And again, if you're not a union company and you say, well, I'm prevailing wage, okay, that's fine. That fringe still goes over here and based off hours worked so that it doesn't screw up that OT. Employees, workers' comp, again, for today's purposes, with about 5 minutes left here before I want to open it up for questions. We can talk more about this, anybody who's interested. But again, workers' comp by job, by state, workers' comp by work class, or just straight up, hey, I put the employee's workers' comp class in their record and I don't have to worry about coding anything each week. All of that can be done. And I'll show you a couple reports here. Employees, nothing, nothing crazy different here other than I can assign, in their record, their union and their work class so that as those tables get updated, everybody does. Again, you can put them in. We can import them to start, of course. So if you're on a service or software, it is not as daunting as you'd think, meaning you're not having to hand key everything into our system for 20, 30 employees. We have data specialists that will help extract that information and get it in here. But ongoing, every client's different. Some are using our onboarding platform where they're not hand keying anything in. Others are like, no, Jim, we don't have that many new employees or turnover. As we get a new one, we'll just put them in here. You can do any of that stuff. So the entry process, again, this is stuff we get into one-on-one because every company is different. But, whether it's entry or we have this mobile app here where, this would be an environment field employees, supervisors, foremen could live in where they could clock in and out, or they could just say, hey, I don't think my guys and gals will clock in and out real well, Jim. That's difficult. And I agree with them. I say, hey, that is tough. If you're going into this as an owner, just keep in mind, as they switch job 1 to 2 to 3, they got to in real time be clocking in and out or switching, right? Whereas there's kind of a middle ground here where what you're requesting from them is up to you. Meaning I could get rid of trade. Somebody who says, hey, I don't got guys or gals bouncing from trade A to B to C, well, then they wouldn't need this. But if you tell me, hey, I'm non-union, Jim, and Bob could be an electrician, a carpenter, and a laborer in a given week, we want to give them a field to insert that because that is how it's going to drive those correct prevailing wages. So this is where during webinars I'm a lot more generic here because there's no way to explain the different ways and how this works other than very high level without having a one-on-one conversation about, hey, what are you currently doing? What are you looking for? Here are the pros and cons. So those are things if we do one-on-one demos we can get more into. But point is, time was entered, came from a different app or our app. This is that reviewal process that you'll be able to do, So you'll be able to see before you submit employees, days, jobs, cost codes if you use them. Companies, some say, well, we don't do that, Jim. We just want to know what job they're on. Okay, then you don't have to put that in, right? So this is really about customizing this to you guys. So all of our reports can be ran by employee or they can be ran by job. So that's the key thing here. Again, you're in this business. Yes, seeing things by employee is important, right? But that ability to at any time with a couple of clicks say, hey, give me the same data by job. I need to know who was there on a certain day, time. I can run these however I want. Current day, one job, all jobs, one employee, all employees. Hey, I just want to know for job 12 how much OT I had without scrolling through a bunch of pages. Well, I can start segueing some of this stuff out, right? So I can say, hey, just give me my overtime here, shrink list down, and now I can see that information for just that. All the reports can be printed, PDF, Word, Excel, CSV as well. Okay. There's other reports, of course. Hey, I want to see what the dollars look like before I submit. Being powered by parts of an accounting system, you're going to have visibility both before, during, and after payroll. So it's one of those things where, yes, we want to pay your employees, your taxes. We want to automate your reporting. But this is still construction payroll. You got to have it in front of you. You got to be able to access it at any time. So we do a good job of saying, hey, we'll take as much off of your plate as we possibly can. But there are still those things like reviewing hours, edits, and then finally the back end of, hey, I submitted, you guys paid my employees and taxes, now what? Well, push the data back to QuickBooks or some other accounting system, and then run your reports. So I always say, look, once this is built and set up, clients are in here doing 3 things each week. New jobs get putting in their time and running their reports. And we have these little quick links so that each company may have a different schedule of reports here, and not just each company, but each individual user. So I have people that say, hey, I log in and I have this here, and so does Bob on our team, but when I run it, it runs by job, and when Bob does, runs by employee. So we can not only customize this per company, but per individual user on your end. And then here's like a generic workers' comp report that's really just more of a lump sum, kind of running totals for this date range. Shows my classes, my hours, my earnings, my exposure, rate, premium, total. But if it's audit time, again, I don't need full detail for just making a payment. But if they want to pick these numbers apart, wonder why there's 536,000 in gross earnings in this time frame, but only 495 reported on workers' comp. Again, we need to see those policies. So some people say, well, Jim, why do you want my workers' comp policy if you're not paying that? Well, two reasons. One, we want to provide nice reporting, audit payment purpose, right? Like we're looking at here. But two is, hey, it's part of job costing. So to get that accurate piece of costing, if we're not incorporating these numbers and this information, we get into some of these reports or what we push back to your accounting system, it's not there if it's not in our system. So for example, Rick here makes $15 an hour on private work in my system, right? What this is saying as I go through, hey, as the employer, 40 times 15 is that, but I pay FICA, FUTA, SUTA, workers' comp, general liability. This is, hey, I pay a portion of health or 401k. Again, every company's different, but minus having these things set up, whether we pay them or not, like we're not paying health or 401k either, but without having them set up, we're not getting that true to the penny job cost number, and we're not getting that true to the penny hourly rate number. And then down here, we're seeing Rick make different amounts because I have these jobs in my system set up as prevailing wage with a wage and fringe table on there. Of course, if you were a union contractor, yeah, once we set that up, that's going to auto-fill those in for you too. So stuff like that. Certified payroll. Again, this is where you can't just be generic anymore. Yeah, we do certified payroll. Well, where are you at? What formats from print to electronic do you need? Do you need to have a service that can create a file for you to upload to them? With us, yes. We don't need some third-party vendor. That's the other thing I tell people to look at too. You contact any of these other services, and they are going to tell you, yeah, we do certified payroll. Make sure you dig deeper. That's why I always encourage one-on-one demos. You will see with us, it's one system, which means when you do a payroll and you call me tomorrow and say, Jim, hours were wrong day, wrong job, wrong, whatever it is. When we fix it in here, your certified payroll's fixed. There are no two phone calls. You don't have to call us to fix your just payroll records and then call this back-end partner of ours to fix your certified payroll. Those are key things because no matter how perfect any of these services you look at are, no matter how perfect you and your team are, reality is this is construction payroll. There will be mistakes. They will be unavoidable no matter how many hours and how much time you put into reviewing it before. It's usually when the employee gets their paycheck is when they're letting you know, hey, this is wrong. So those types are things that are minor things, but when compiled together, they add up to cost you significant time. So whether you need electronic or you need printed, you come in here, as you can see. I'm not going to go through all these. I want to open it up here for questions, but wherever you're at, there's probably 4 or 5 more in here. I got to run an update, but this is what we stay up to date with because this is what we live and breathe. So this kind of stuff, no work performed, Fed, state forms, city forms, again, uploadable forms, no problem. And then there's all kinds of other reports. Union, I'll cover just, we have a mix of people here today where, again, I never can tell if union, non-union, what you have going on, but union reporting, not every union may take this, right? So I don't oversell this. I just say, hey, what I can assure you with union is I can provide you the information in this report. You can run it for one class, one employee, one union. You can run it by job. So I can give you the tools and information for payment and audit, but you're still handling that payment to the union. And if they want this in Excel or they just need hours worked for the month, of course we have reporting for that. But you guys would still handle that. But I haven't ran into in my 15 years of service that is handling paying union. So you shouldn't see anything on the other side from another service that's going to help you more so than the tracking and reporting we can offer here. Okay. I'm going to open it up now. Anybody new to this, there should be a little question section that you can type it in. It comes right to me, not to everybody. So just send me your question. I don't throw any names out there or anything. I just respond to questions. And then I'll give everybody a minute to do that. And as I'm waiting on that, I'll keep this popped up so that, again, anybody can write this down to call, email, whatever you want. So give everybody a second, and I'll answer a few questions, and we'll get you out of here. Okay, somebody's asking, do we integrate with Solutions Q360 ERP? I ran into them many years ago. We can create a text Excel CSV file. I'm not going to pretend that I remember. It's not somebody I'm running into all the time. In some of these softwares, it does get into QuickBooks. I always say QuickBooks. QuickBooks is more of a one file size fits all, meaning I'll pull this up. If you're on QuickBooks, here's what goes back. No more, no less. Now I can do a heck of a lot more. So, for example, when you look at this, okay, per GL account, whether you have more than I have or less, doesn't matter, but GL info, and then per job, the labor, the FICA, the FUTA, the SUTA, the union, the workers' comp, the fringes. Now, I start talking like Sage, for example, right? So if I come in here and pull up this, I can get more detail. So it's not always the answer people like to hear, but meaning QuickBooks is just one file size fits all. You get into some of these other ones, we've done more than just this file for people on Sage 300, meaning, all right, you're using job, cost code, are you using phases or equipment? So some of these ones I have to look at people, not because we can't do it, but I have to say, hey, listen, you gotta help me and provide me the roadmap. Call them, see what they say, see if they can get you a template, just like we can. If somebody says, hey, Jim, how am I going to import time into your system or jobs or this, I can say, hey, the way our system needs the data laid out is this, and I provide them an example. We look for the same thing with some of these softwares that we don't run into week to week, day to day, and then we can still make it happen. But we are real big, just like I said in the beginning. Yeah, hey, we're not trying to drag you down the road of 10 one-on-one demos and all this stuff before we figure that out. No, we have to figure that out first, because if not, hey, I'm providing you value and time savings here, but costing you time on the back end that just doesn't line up. So those kind of things, if you talk to them and said, hey, Jim, this file is what they said I could do to upload and keep my life moving in my accounting system, could you build this? What would it cost if you did? You send me that, I get you all that before we even jump online or anything. So, okay, somebody's asking about a termination, like a in-house check. So, yes, we are the payroll processor. Again, I have tons of people that are like, well, love to use you, but we're union, and that just doesn't work for us because, hey, if I terminate a guy or gal today, for whatever the reason, I have to pay them right now. I can't wait on you guys, Jim. We get that. Meaning, I have clients cutting checks every minute of every day that aren't calling or waiting on us. They're using our system as the processor, getting them to the net pay. It needs to be in our system because that's how you're going to get, they're on the certified, the job cost, all that. So you could go in here at any time and enter or import a time card. The only difference is we have you put it in like a different cycle. So anybody coming over in the weekly, we're doing the checks, direct deposits, taxes. Anybody in a separate cycle, we know that you've paid them. We've established this. So we know we don't need to reissue a check or direct deposit, but that next payroll that comes over, we're going to pull that tax money through as well. So those are the things that I say, hey, listen, there are many people that have tried to outsource or considered it and said, hey, there's just too many things that they can't do or that they think they can do, but it's not quite the right way. With us, that's not the case because of who we are and the type of payroll we tackle every single day and look for. So, in short, if anybody wants to talk more, just wants a quote, wants to schedule a live one-on-one demo, I would be happy to do so. And then again, you just reach out to me here, this email, or that phone number. Oh, let me pop that back up again. Sorry about that. And I'd be happy to connect with anybody. So thank you all so much for attending today. And then hopefully I'll hear from some of you, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.